106.3 Rochester Free Radio, and you're listening to The Divide with Marcus C. Williams. Let's get into it and let's talk about a whole bunch of the awesomeness that's going on in the United States and across the world. And here we go. Give us a couple seconds. All right, let's jump into this because nobody likes dead air. But worse than that, nobody likes mechanical and electrical stuff that doesn't actually work the way it's supposed to when you want it to. But that's just the way the world works, isn't it? So this week we've got a lot of stuff going on. I know we don't talk a lot about the presidential stuff on the show very often, but I would like to talk about some of the presidential stuff this week because I think a lot of interesting things have transpired. Just maybe 2 days ago now, Joe Biden's daughter came out and said, yes, that was her diary, where she talked about her father taking showers with her at a teenage and older age, and it made her feel very uncomfortable, as well as other salacious things in the book. I mean, I guess it wouldn't really be salacious because it's a diary. Like, that's real stuff that somebody experienced. I don't think you really can call that stuff salacious, even though it might come across that way, because it was really, well, let's say it like it is. It's really, really, really kind of like pedophilia stuff going on in there, and very questionable stuff going on there coming out of the Biden family. I mean, I don't know, you know, like people make fun of Trump and how he thinks his daughter is beautiful and stuff like that. But this young lady, I mean, I guess you can't call her a young lady. She's older than I am. But his daughter, I mean, Biden's daughter, I couldn't believe it. I mean, she came out and said that that diary was hers. But we knew that the whole time, right? We knew the diary was hers, but the news media would tell us that it wasn't hers. They said, oh, it wasn't hers, and that shouldn't be published, and this, that, and the third. And then they said, oh, well, it was hers. It's kind of like Hunter Biden's laptop, where they said the laptop wasn't his. Anybody that wanted to say anything about it was shut down and shot down, and they couldn't talk about it, and you couldn't say anything about the laptop. Otherwise, you'd be silenced. And this is the day and age that we're living in the United States of America, and they are doing their best. If somebody is in power, to quell all of the stories that might come out that might harm them, especially if it's favorable to the Democrats. And I'll give you, and I know you might be Democrat listening, but it's true. It's very true, especially if you're in the elite ruling class. Now, we look at this and we go to how all of the media seems to be predominantly run by leftist institutions, and that's just a fact, you know. And people be like, oh, well, Fox is whatever. No, man, listen. Fox is one of those companies that at the top, all of them are run by the same people. You know, they all go to the same parties. They all have the same cousins. They're all married into each other's families. They all go to the same schools. So at the tippy top, when it's right or it's left, it's all the same thing. All of the major news companies, Fox, ABC, MSNBC, CBS, all of them, all of those go together. You know, you just might get a little more actual information if you watch Fox compared to maybe Rachel Maddow. Drink water. I'm having some nice water, fresh, refreshing water right now. It's starting to get warm outside. We actually got some nice weather for a change, so I'll take it. It's springtime, right? And as springtime starts to bloom, we see all of these stories starting to bloom across the nation. Not just the stuff about Ashley Biden. I think it's Ashley. Ashley, right? Yeah. Ashley Biden and Hunter Biden and their mishaps and escapades and stuff like that. So you see now Hunter is going back to court, so that'll be very interesting coming up soon, and we'll see what's going on there. We'll follow that story. But I'd like to take a second and look at Trump's rally that he had in New Jersey the other day, just last night or the night before. It's amazing, you guys. It was amazing. Jersey is pretty blue, pretty blue. And he had tens of thousands of people come out to his rally to watch him speak. They waited in line for hours to watch Donald Trump speak. That to me is amazing. And it shows that people are really animated. and concerned enough to come out and listen to Trump because they know that what's going on in our country is not going in the right direction. And you don't have to like Trump to understand that our country is not going in a good direction. You don't have to like him to see that under his presidency before COVID, everything was copacetic. We weren't in any wars. The economy was flowing. I mean, taxes were down, and people say, "Oh well, taxes didn't go down it only went down for the rich." Who are you letting lie to you? Don't let these people lie to you. The IRS and the the Central Budget Office, the CBO, both nonpartisan organizations, which is very, very interesting, came out and said that the Trump tax cuts largely benefited more than anybody else those in the middle class and the working class. So that was very, very, very interesting. But you'll hear them tell it other ways if you listen to people just talk about it. They're like, oh, well, the tax cuts were only for the wealthy. That's not true. Trump actually, when he was in office, pushed to get rid of the SALT tax, which is a double deduction tax, which only benefits the wealthy. The way that it works is essentially if you deduct something on the state level, you can deduct it on the federal level too, which is usually not very legal. And that's just me giving a brief synopsis of it. It's a little more complicated than that, but that's the basics of it. It's a double deduction on tax. So if you were to and it only works if you donate so much stuff, right? Like it's got to be thousands and thousands of dollars. I think, and I don't remember, so don't quote me on this. I think it's like the minimum is like $10,000 or something before you can actually start getting that deduction. But I think it actually might be more. It doesn't matter, but it's neither here nor there. It's who's able to donate that much a year, even if it is $10,000. Most people aren't able to donate that much, So who is it really benefiting? And that's even if you are upper middle class, maybe you make $100,000 a year. Like $10,000 in donations a year is a lot. That's like 10% of your salary. And is $100,000 even upper middle class anymore? That's kind of just breaking even $100,000 a year now, and that's terrifying. That's where we are. $100,000 a year in most places, especially where I live in, like Rochester, New York, in this mid-sized city that I live in, that's just barely about breaking even right now. And people cry and complain about the lack of social services and the way that social services it works and stuff like that, because it's jacked up, you guys. People in the middle class, we've got a whole new class of people. It's called the working poor. People are working 40 hours a week, and they're poor. They're poor. They're under the poverty line. This is a very serious issue, especially when many people that do work and do need assistance aren't able to get social services. It's very interesting how that works. And don't be on social services and then want to actually get a job, because the second you get on there, they'll cut your child care so you can't have a job. Now the question is do you even want to work, or do you want your child care? And that's not okay. That shouldn't be a decision that should be have to be made. Like if you're working, you should get child care. Duh, like that's a no-brainer. But our elected officials don't seem very much to care about the working class or working families. As a matter of fact, everything that you see them do and put into play is stuff to take away from the working family and the working people. Why is that? Aren't the working class the everyday men? And that's the very serious issue. The people in power, even on the state level, especially on the state level. For example, I'm in New York State. These people that we have in our state assembly and the state senate are out there rabid minds. They'll pass all types of bills, making it more difficult for regular everyday people to live their lives, to actually be able to, buy food, pay rent. It's crazy. Drive, drink water. Anyway, so these people are crazy. They do whatever they want, whenever they want, and it's a very, very, very serious issue. And nobody is looking after these people. Nobody is talking to these people. Nobody is saying, hey, you know what? You're supposed to represent we, the people, the taxpayers, right? Like, explain to me, people, why public transportation, you have to pay for public transportation when you get on the bus. Why is that? Do we not pay enough taxes as it is? You know, if you start to look at the subsidies that the government does for things like public transportation, you really start to wonder what is actually going on. Because as the money keeps flowing into these public transportation things, and they're like, oh, you shouldn't drive, you shouldn't drive. Well, how come public transit isn't free? How come Amtrak isn't free? You try to get on a train and you might as well take the plane because Amtrak is so expensive. Why is that? You know, and then Amtrak is slow, you know. Half the time you might be able to get there in the same time as a bus, and the bus will cost you way less. Now that's something that's very awe-striking. Awe-striking, I guess you would say it as. But this is something that we really need to wake up to as a group of individuals, as a collective whole, that are citizens in the state of New York and all across the nation. Because I gotta be honest, I don't know one state that really doesn't throw a ton at public transportation. And we can also talk about Amtrak being a federal program where Amtrak has never made a penny the whole time of its existence. It's always in the red every single year. That's a fact. We know that to be true. You can go look that up. This is something that's, again, very serious, but it's not working to the benefit of the people. And then they're like, oh, high-speed rail, we need high-speed rail. I'll settle for a reasonable train ticket, or better yet, how about a free train ticket, since we're paying for it anyway because it's government funded, and the higher the prices are on the train, the less likely anybody is to take the train. It's a numbers game. People don't get on the train because the train costs too much. It's already slow. People don't want to take it. I like to take the train. The train's nice. I like to watch the scenery. I like to look out the window. I have no problems. I like the sounds and the noises that the train makes. I like the smell of the train tracks and the wheels on the train tracks. I like that smell. You know, but that's just me. The smell is like ASMR aromatherapy to me. Yes, I just said smell is like ASMR, but you know what I mean. And what I meant was not that it's ASMR, but it's aromatherapy. But also the sounds are nice of the train. I like the click, clack, sugar, 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 sugar. Okay, that's the sound of the train stopping and the brakes, but I didn't make a very good noise. But I laugh because it's funny, but it's not funny. We deserve prioritization when it comes to the way our tax money is spent. However, we're not getting very much prioritization on our tax money, and that's very unfortunate at this time. I don't like it. I'm sure that you don't like it. And the question is, how come our money, let's take New York State for an example. You know, we've got almost $50 million in this year's budget for abortion tourism. That's not even regular abortion, right? Like, that's not abortion for the people inside of our state, right? Abortion for the people inside of our state is a whole separate conversation. The $50 million is for abortion tourism for people from other states to come here, or for illegal aliens to come here, or for foreigners to come here and to get abortions in New York State. Why are they benefiting off of our tax dollars? $50 million, that's a lot of Amtrak tickets, isn't it? and I'm laughing when it's not funny. Because again, if we live in New York State money should be spent on New Yorkers. I was walking downtown by the buses where I live, and it's so many homeless people out there. So many homeless people. Homeless people sleeping on the old steam vents. We still have steam vents here, a couple of them. I guess a couple of the buildings still use steam. That's a very interesting technology. It's interesting that we don't really go back to that, since everybody's, oh, energy efficiency. Anyway, that's a whole separate episode to talk about on another time. But here we are. We're talking about the fiscal irresponsibility of the government. And it's not okay. Because we, as the citizens, deserve prioritization. They're sending our money abroad on the federal level, and I'm pretty sure that the majority of you do not want them to send our money abroad. Do you know why the Ukraine war is still going on? It's not because we want to help Ukraine. It's because Ukraine is being used as a testing ground for all types of mega corporations and all of those large name companies that nobody really cares for because they know that they're decimating our country. You know, all of those oil giants, all of those are heavily invested in Ukraine. You know, all the pharmaceutical companies, all of those are heavily invested in Ukraine. You know, all the tech companies, all of those are heavily invested in Ukraine. It's not about the Ukrainian people. It's we're using Ukraine as an open air testing facility for their population because the majority of the men are on the front lines because they're being forced conscripted. So they're being forced out there to go to war, whether they want to or not, kind of like how the Russians did in World War II. But we can't talk about that. We can't have that honest conversation. So meanwhile, back in the cities and the urban areas, they're putting all types of stuff on these people, making a brand new tomorrow for these people that we would shudder at in fear because they're putting things like social credit scores into implementation in Ukraine. Did you know that they're doing that? Yeah, they're doing that in Ukraine right now. Can you explain to me how come we're not talking about that? How come that's not on the news? How they have a whole digital system as far as payments go and your social credit score that's all funded and backed by companies like Amex and Visa and MasterCard and stuff like that. Can we talk about that? Can we talk about how they've suspended elections for the last 4 years? And you're telling me that it's a democratic nation? Or can we talk about that? No, we can't talk about that because the people in power don't want us to talk about that. But it's a serious thing to talk about, and I feel how you want to feel about the war. My main concern is that they're making the testing grounds for all of these technologies that when they go try to implement them over here, they will have a very serious adverse effect. But they're using Ukraine as a testing ground for them over there, and we need to be privy of it. But you can't get that information on regular mainstream media. Why aren't they talking about that? They got a whole digital currency social credit score program. I believe it's called DAIA, however you pronounce it. It's a serious issue. I'm terrified of the central bank digital currency and the digital dollar coming over here. More or less a social credit score, okay? Because I know me and many of you guys that are listening, we can already hear the trains are coming, okay? They're right around the bend. And if things like Kathy Hochul getting her internment camps back up and flowing like she wanted to because the court ruled in her favor, said that, and this was on appeal, right? Like it wasn't the original court case. She lost the original court case for the concentration camps, but they said that she can have them because nobody had the grounds or authority to challenge her in her position. That's some bogus nonsense, okay? Nobody has the authority to challenge the governor. They said not the congressman, not the state level elected officials, not the people, and not any people's groups. It's disgusting. It's so disgusting it makes me want to spit. It's horrible. And we the people have to live through this. So, and I mentioned this before, and it merits mentioning again because it goes right into this digital currency social credit score concept. You know, a couple weeks ago, maybe about a month now, the CEO of Chase, JP Morgan Chase, what's his name, Jamie Dimon, right? He said that inflation is going to continue to go sky high until tokenization, which is a digital dollar. They're trying to usher in this digital dollar. They've already got a program for it that they've already started to institute. It's called the it's called the Fed Now app. It's called the Fed Now app. I mean, right? Like you hear it. Like I couldn't make this stuff up. Like it's funny because it's true. This is what the app is called that the federal government is using to transition what would you say, the currency or the transfer of funds in between the banks and settlements. So if you go to a store, it goes your bank, the government, the store, right? So, but it goes your bank, the government, then the store. So this is a problem because that means that the government can stop you from using your money however you want to, or they can make it so you can't shop at certain places, or so that the money that you have expires in a certain way or whatever like that. Like let's say they don't want you to use your money after a week. If everything's digital, your money expires like a coupon after a week because it's not real currency. We barely have currency now, and that's a whole separate conversation about the way that we have fiat currency, which isn't backed by anything. It used to be a certificate where we can actually go and cash it in for silver or gold, but it's not even that now. It's a debt note that is owned by the Federal Reserve, and the Federal Reserve is a private bank. It's not even part of the federal government. Can we talk about that? It's crazy. Then you get all of these people, these leftists and socialists screaming, "Oh, I believe in people's rights and liberties and freedoms, and the poor people need more money and stuff like this and all of this and all of that." And you never one time hear them say, "End the Fed." If you wanted people to have more money and more control over our monetary system, decrease inflation, people will be saying "End the Fed," but nobody wants to say that. You know, it's very, very serious. Drink water. But it's very, very serious. And if we are actually going to be a society that's moving forward, to move forward, we have to make sure that the monetary policy that's going in prioritizes us as citizens. And it's very interesting what's going on right now with the non-prioritization of the American citizen. And I don't want to get too much into digital currency or too much into CBDC. You go look both of those things up. I don't want to get too much into the social credit score. Go look it up. Please look it up. Lord have mercy, look it up. I don't want to get too much into that. I don't want to get too much into tokenization and the rest of that, or the FedNow app. Go look it up. Please go look it up. Look it up. Okay? I don't want to talk about those too much, because you honestly can't even talk too much about those things, because they'll shut you down and they'll deplatform you. I've been deplatformed many times for talking about CBDC. Now it's everywhere. It's all the rage. Tokenization, because they changed the name and try to call it something different, when it's all the same. It's all the same. Tokenization by any other name is still what it is. Central bank digital currency. All controlled by the federal government. But the government doesn't care about us. We know that. The majority of the elected officials don't care about us. We know that. And it's up to us, the citizens, to actually stand up and say no more. It's crazy. Then we see that in more news, right? Because the news is great, isn't it? That's going on all over the world. More news in the world. The only reason why we're really still in Ukraine and we haven't brokered any type of peace deal with Russia or anything there, outside of the corporate interests and stuff like that, is because of France. France is fighting Russia right now in, I guess you'd call it Central Africa. I forget what the name of that area is right there. It's like the whole middle of Africa. It's the part south of the Sahara area, and Algeria, which is right by the Sahara. But it's called something. It starts with an S. It escapes me at this time. But regardless, all of those countries down there that used to have the I guess CFA franc, which is the French currency, which is pegged to the French franc, which enables France to have a lot of monetary control. Here we go back with the monetary control people, right? Because it's all about controlling the money. So they have monetary control of these African nations, and it's not advantageous for the African nations. And it's been like that since the 60s, 70s, okay? So the African countries are finally like, we've had enough. We're going to get rid of these people. So they are pushing out the French and stuff like that. Even the Americans, they're pushing them out in Niger. And this is something that we need to talk about, but nobody will talk about it, because what's going on in Ukraine is a proxy war for the French, and apparently there are French troops in Ukraine, but we can't talk about that. And the Russian troops killed some of those French troops in Ukraine just last week, but we can't talk about that because we can't talk about it. You know, and that's the scary, scary, scary stuff, because you won't see this stuff on general news, but it's real and it's really happening. You won't see anything about the farmer protests in places like Ireland or the Netherlands or anywhere in Europe where they're talking about putting all these crazy restrictions on the fertilizer and the cows and the chickens and all of this, and how many the farmers can have, and all of this and all of that, because the farmers are fighting back, and they don't want you to fight back in America. Now in America, we've got this crazy avian flu, which is killing cows. How is that possible? Avian flu is bird flu. It kills birds. It kills poultry. And if you're older than me, or if you're younger but not like still in school, you might have heard of the bird flu before. Now, it's called the bird flu because it only affects birds. But earlier this year, the federal government, the NIH, Dr. Fauci's people, and the rest of them were working with China to increase the, I guess you would say, the, what would you say, increase the virility, I believe that's how you would say that. Virility and virility, I'm making up words maybe, but I'm pretty sure that at least one of those two is a real word. But you get the concept. They increase the power of the thing to affect other animals and stuff now. So now they're saying it's affecting the cows, killing the cows. Get out of town. Drink one. Now the bird flu is affecting the cows. How's that sound? That sounds crazy. Mark my word, they'll try to reframe it later and try to rename it and stuff like that. But in the beginning of the year, it came out that the U.S. was working with China to make the disease, the avian flu, more contagious and be able to be spread through more animals and to humans. So now look at this. That was in like the end of last year, the beginning of this year, and now all of a sudden, here comes March, April. Now all of a sudden, now cows are starting to die from the bird flu. Seriously? Just magically? Didn't have anything to do with that NIH government program working with the Chinese to make the virus stronger, better, okay, and be able to do all types of crazy stuff. Didn't have anything to do with that, right? Of course it didn't. And then now they've got all of these new types of things that they're forcing in on farmers and ranchers across the nation, making it even more difficult for them to farm or ranch, which has already been a problem in the United States, especially in states like mine, in New York State, and even my county, Monroe County. It's really serious. I encourage you to go look up the laws that are going on in Michigan that they're trying to push through as far as meat animals, okay? And specifically the beef, okay? It's crazy what they're trying to enforce. And they're trying to make it more and more and more and more because they don't want you to be able to eat meat, because if you can eat meat, you can actually gain some weight on your bones and you can think clearly, okay? Because if you don't eat meat, like you're a vegan, like you're not going to be healthy, you won't be able to, as people say, colloquially, you won't be able to bust a grape. It's funny, but it's not funny, because your muscle mass will be basically eradicated because you need meat protein to beef up your body. It's funny, beef up, right? It's funny because the term beef up comes from eating beef, and beef up means to make more muscle. So ironically, they're trying to have you not eat beef, so you can't beef up, so you won't have any muscle, so you can't resist the government. And when we already know that when you don't have enough meat in your system, your brain gets cloudy because it's not able to clean out what it needs to clean out because it needs the meat proteins. Now this is very serious, but again, it's yet another thing that we're not able to talk about. So here we are at the top of the hour, and I'd like to remind you, if you're watching on YouTube or Rumble or X or wherever you are, make sure you like, share, and subscribe. That's the best, most important thing you can do to assist us. Like, share, and subscribe. And if you're not following on Rumble or YouTube, make sure that you go to the Marcus C. Williams channel. That's the Marcus C. Williams channel, and it's on Rumble and it's on YouTube. You can find me on X at Marcus, the number 4, that's Marcus, the digit 4, ROC. So Marcus 4 ROC. You'll find me on Twitter, you'll find me on Instagram, same handle, and you just search Marcus C. Williams for Rochester or Marcus C. Williams. You'll find me on Facebook. So if you're listening to us on WRFZ 106.3 FM Rochester Free Radio, I'm going to tell you, make sure you tell your friends, your family, your neighbors, the people you work with. Say, hey, every Tuesday they got this great show. It's called The Divide. Make sure that you tune in and you listen to it, where they talk about all types of different stuff. They talk about politics. They talk about its impact on you. They talk about laws and crazy stuff that's going on. They talk about a little bit of everything, but all of it's important to all of the people that live in this nation. So I encourage you, tell people to listen or watch the show, The Divide with Marcus C. Williams. Check us out, okay? And you can find us online on The Divide on Facebook. We'll be working on getting more stuff broadcasting there and stuff too soon. But regardless, let's go back into it. Man, you guys, I don't know what to tell you. Well, you know what? That's not true. I do know what to tell you. The first thing I'm going to tell you is don't give up hope. That's the most important thing that I can tell you. Don't give up hope. Don't give up faith. And I hope that you listening to me can encourage you, even if it is just a little bit, to keep you going just a little bit more. Don't give up, people. All is not lost. And in order to make sure that we can do more, we're going to have to start getting active, and we're going to have to start engaging with our local elected officials. But you've got to pick your one thing, because we're not able to all do everything. So if your thing is school board, check out the school board. Do your research on them. Delve deep into that. See what's going on in your local school board. If your thing is the fire district, go do that. If your thing is city or town council, do that. You know, if your thing is the federal government, the state senate, do that. Do it. Do it. Find out about these things that are happening. This year I'm running for a state assembly for the 137th Assembly District in New York State. Those are the people that pass the laws that we like or don't like. Most of them we don't like. Okay? And those are the ones that put the money where you want it, which normally never happens. But if there's money where you don't want it, that's them. And if there's money not going where you want it to go, that's also them. So I'm running to make sure that I can help empower the people and advocate for what the people actually need. So, as a side note, I encourage you, check out my website, Marcus4Rochester.com. That's Marcus 4Rochester.com. Okay, and if you're in the area, definitely pitch in with my campaign or donate. And you don't even have to be in the area to donate. And if you really want to, you can actually, there are some things that you can do to pitch in even if you're not local. So definitely check out my website, Marcus 4Rochester.com. And because let me be honest, you guys, things aren't going to change until we work to change them. And the main issue there is that most people do not know what level of government does what. And we've got to get back to knowing what that is. So I teach civics classes. I don't teach physics. I teach civics classes just to that point, so people can better understand what level of government does what, because it's important. It's very, very important. If we don't teach people and show people what level of government does what, you know, nothing's going to change. County ledge is one of those things. County legislature, most places across not the state, but across the country, even the state, have county legislature, right? Like that's above your city or town level of government. It's right before the state level of government. But most people don't even know what they do. So you see people go there and they complain about stuff that's not them. You know, it's city council or it's the school board or it's the state. And we need to know what each level of government does. You know, so I encourage you, wherever you are, look into it. Because each level does something a little different in each different state. It's a little different. So look into that, figure it out, and figure out how you can get involved. Maybe it's as simple as getting involved with the campaign of a local elected official or even a national level official that's running for office so that you can help make a difference. We've got these guys running for president this year, but it's not just the people running for president. Like I said, I'm running for state assembly. State assembly seats are up all across New York. State senate seats are up all across New York. We've got many Supreme Court seats up this year all across New York. You know, we've got county races all across New York. And these are important races because they're on the more local level. Those are going to affect you more and more than the presidency is going to affect you right now. So those are the ones that we need to make sure that we pay attention to and we're finding out the information on the candidates and what they're doing, what their plan is, and how we can actually get active. Because if we don't, nothing is going to change. And it's up to us to stand up, speak up, and not shut up, take action. Drink water. But here's the deal. If we don't do it, nobody is doing it for us. Nobody is coming to save us. God is not coming down out of the sky to save us. That is why we have been put here for a time such as this. It's very serious. We have to stand up. And I encourage you, especially if you are a member of the faithful, you need to stand up. You need to stand up, you need to speak up, and you need to speak loud and clear. There is so much evil going on in our nation right now. Like pure evil. Like you don't even have to be religious to see that it's just plain evil. Like things like having children chop off their genitals. When I was growing up, there was a big thing about Africa. Oh, we've got to stop female genital mutilation. And that's where basically they chop off like the clitoris of female and whatever the case is. And that's what they do because that's their tradition. I think in some places it's like the clitoral hood, kind of like a regular circumcision. And in some places they cut off the clitoris too, possibly. That's what I've heard. But I did have a girlfriend that was from Sierra Leone, and she was very adamant about the fact that female circumcision was very important because that's their culture, that's where they're from, right? So America was pushing so hard against that. There used to be all the rage, stop female genital mutilation. Now you got kids chopping off their breasts, the small girls. Now you got boys cutting off their wedding tackle, small boys. And you're saying that it's good. Where's the stop genital mutilation people now? The same people that were all about that, largely the wealthy, affluent whites, okay, are now the same ones pushing for all of this bodily mutilation of children. How is that okay? Somebody's got to explain it to me. If you want to do that and you're an adult, cool. Put a whole plate in your lip if that's what you're about, okay? Put your arm on the back of your head if that's what you're about. Look like one of them diseased monsters from the TV and the movies if that's what you're about. I can't guarantee you your safety if you do that, nor should you expect to be safe if you look like that, because that's the stuff of nightmares. But we see many people walking around looking like the stuff of nightmares, which is crazy right now. Like that crazy person, I think it's a dude that might be a girl that claims to be an evil witch demon that just won Eurozone, which is like Europe's version for the whole continent of American Idol. So that's kind of crazy. And I just saw certain clips of that, and that's just ugh, ugh, ugh. You know, but the satanery, I'm making up words now. The satanicness is out there in public view on full display. People are claiming that they're demons and stuff like that, and demon possessed, and then you got this thing that's part of the alphabet people that's called two spirits. Yeah, two spirits. I'm two spirits. I got two different spirits that live inside me. That's called demonic possession. You tripping. That's demonic possession. There's no other way to look at it. That's called demonic possession. If you were to look up the definition of what is demonic possession, it would be two spirits inside one body or more, right? Because they are legion, right? You hear the spirits refer to themselves as they and stuff like that, and we and stuff like that, because it's crazy. It's crazy that we have to deal with this. And I was going to say, you know, because it's a lot of them that are coordinating together, but it's so much worse, and I'm not able to do it justice, how much satanic influence is going on in our society right now. It's completely demonic. I saw a thing briefly on Tucker Carlson. I don't really watch him like that, but every now and then I'll catch something that he's got going on. And it was either him or somebody was saying that the alien spacecrafts are really ships from the demons and they're coming out of the sea. And I was like, oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. You mean that's not a conspiracy theory anymore? Because many of the faithful have said forever that demons are what they're calling aliens. And if you listen to what the description of some of the aliens are, like those sound like fallen angels, like easy. Like you take one of the most famous kind is a reptilian, right? A reptilian alien is one of the most famous kind. If ask anybody that's into aliens or conspiracy theories or anything about reptilian aliens, they'll have a ton to tell you. But I bring this up because to note the demonic forces and the evil in the world and stuff like this and the UFOs and all of that. Because they say that the reptilian aliens are big warlike, are from a warlike race, and they're very large and very big and very strong. They hate people. They absolutely hate people. And they sometimes have wings. And they have what looks like to be, and they are sometimes have what looks like to be a halo above their heads. Now, this is the alien people, right? These aren't the angel, they're angels people. Those are the alien people that say that. So that's question number one. What? And get this, they can also shapeshift. Wait a second. Now, me as a believer, as a member of the faithful, I say, okay, wait a second. Where have I heard that before? A reptile that can shapeshift and doesn't like humans. I've heard that story before. Where's my Bible? Let me open up to Genesis. You know, the first reptile that's shape-shifting that doesn't like humans was, well, what we would call Lucifer. It's right there in the Bible. Right there in the Bible. It just so happens to be the exact same description that they give for reptilian aliens. So this is something that we really need to recognize is real. When they say that we are not fighting wars against principalities and stuff like that, this is real evil. This is spiritual warfare, and warfare on a level that we don't even really comprehend or understand. Like I try to explain like the basic level of warfare that China is implementing on the United States to people, and they don't get it. More or less demonic levels of warfare. They don't understand it, you know? So, I mean, let's be honest and let's be clear. This is no longer a conspiracy theory. This is conspiracy fact. Fact. And getting back on what we've seen over the news on the last couple of weeks, now AstraZeneca, the people who were making some of those shots, okay, now they're saying, oh yeah, the shots cause blood clots. What? You're telling me that some of the COVID shots cause blood clots? Like this is, I'm not making this up. I swear to goodness, okay? Go look it up. I can't make this up. The truth is stranger than fiction, okay? After they were telling people and shutting people off and making it so people couldn't say that the shots were causing blood clots, now here comes AstraZeneca saying that the shots do cause blood clots. And now we come to find out that Pfizer is paying people off for all of these cancer and other side effects, at least over 10,000 cases already that they've paid off. Drink water. It's so disgusting, man. It's ridiculous. It's absolutely reprehensible. It's so disgusting it makes you want to spit. But that's neither here nor there because like the plot thickens, right? Like as we talk about news, the plot thickens. How thicker can the plot get? Man, listen, I don't even know. But it seems like everybody that said anything that's a conspiracy, that's been a conspiracy in the last 20, 30 years, okay, has all come true pretty much. And remember, people, when they say that the government wouldn't do that, yes, they would. Okay? Come to find out. I'm laughing because I'm trying to keep from crying because it's so terrible. It's a crime against humanity, and I'm not saying that lightly. These are literal crimes against humanity, but we can't even talk about it. And I say that as a preface to the next thing that I'm going to say. I was watching the news in, I want to say it was from Australia, right? It wasn't Sky News. It was some other like regular channel over there. But they were like, oh yeah, you know, maybe we shouldn't have told people to lock down and stuff like this and stuff like that. Maybe we shouldn't have forced it on people. Maybe it was a violation of their rights and stuff like that. And this is regular news, you guys. Like, this isn't like Sky News or anything like. This is regular, like, Australian broadcast news. And this was one of the guys that was like the director of health services over there, the minister or whatever they call it. You know, I was like, wow, he's out there, and he basically apologized. That was a first. That was amazing. So I'm like, this is crazy. And if you guys don't know, there are people still fighting to get their jobs back that were terminated during COVID because they wouldn't take those shots. And nobody has ever done anything for all of the businesses that were forced out of business or ended up closing because of COVID. That's still reprehensible. And you say, oh, well, the PPP and the other loans and stuff like that. First of all, the people who got the majority of that money were very wealthy companies, and the companies that did get some of that money that were open didn't even have enough money really to get through a lot of it, just barely maybe. So that's something that we need to know, because nobody really talks about that stuff. But we need to have a conversation about it, and somebody needs to say something. But whenever you talk about stuff like that, they try to shut you down and make it so you can't talk about it, and they don't want you to say anything or do anything in relation to it, all of this and all of that. It's outside of the realm of reasonability. In America, they don't want to talk about any of those things. You can't talk about the shots causing strokes and stuff like that. You can't talk about that. But AstraZeneca's coming out and saying it. Pfizer is slowly admitting it, but somebody's got to explain to me how we had the shots at warp speed, but we couldn't get the records at warp speed. Explain it to me. Make it make sense. Explain it to me like I'm 5, okay? Why the records need to, first they wanted to seal the records for 99 years, then they wanted to seal the records for 75 years, then they're like, oh, well, we'll release some of the records every couple of years, and then the judge was like, you gotta release more records than that. And then they get the records and everything's blacked out, like redacted. How is a pharmaceutical company blacking out records like they're the government and like it's espionage, like they're doing some covert top secret mission? What was in those things, people? You know, I watched Bill Gates, you know, who's a big person on those, that's in favor of all of that stuff and things like that. But he's like, oh, yeah. He's like, oh, yeah, there's no reason why these shots couldn't be room temperature stable. It's no reason why these shots aren't able to be mass produced for like 7 cents a vial. 7 cents? You know how much they were charging the government for each of those shots, man? We're talking about between $150 and $1,000. Okay, easy. And that depends on what time you're talking about, right? Because there were different times and the prices varied. The earlier on, they were more expensive, and then they dropped the prices on many of them. But you know how much they were charging, and that's not including the subsidies that were on them, okay? But you know, the craziest thing about all of those things was that they had these, I guess you would say, these contracts with the government where the companies would be held harmless and couldn't be sued over it. That's why I was like, absolutely not, because somebody need a lawsuit if something go wrong. And it's crazy because in America, we know that we do not have a healthcare system. We have the medical industrial complex, which basically wants to keep you just healthy enough that you don't die, because the hospital doesn't have a good day unless you're having a bad day. We know that they give you drugs with all types of side effects just so that they can give you more drugs, and almost all of the drugs are based on petroleum. Can we talk about that? No, can't talk about that. We know that the oil companies are heavily invested into the medical industrial complex and basically run everything. You know, the American Heart Association, the what do you call them, the doctors, the American Doctors Association, and the rest of those people, all of that, all of it's oil money behind all of it. You know, and that's not me taking a shot at oil companies, but it's the truth. These are truths that we need to have a conversation about. And it's not like they're hidden truths. These are things that you can actively look up on the internet. And the fact that I'm telling you to go look it up on the internet, and you can actually look it up. Shows you how serious it really is because it's not even covered up. That's how in their face they are with everything. Because it's true. It's true, and it's just taken as a given. Because they name stuff things that sound nice that aren't really good for you. But we need to have these important conversations. Otherwise, we're not having any real conversations. And I'd like to talk more about the farmers in Europe and how they push back against the government there and all of the food industry stuff there that was going on there. But we couldn't see any of it on the TV or anything like that. Hell, we couldn't even, excuse my language, heaven. We couldn't even see anything from the truckers convoy in Canada when it was up there. They blacked that out on the media. They wouldn't let you see any of that. They don't let you see anything, but somehow all of these protests on all of these college campuses are all on the news everywhere, okay, talking about death to America. How are you going to say death to America? How is nobody doing anything about these people talking about death to America? I just saw them in Chicago raise a flag, Palestinian flag above the U.S. flag. Are we being serious right now? That's a declaration of war against the United States of America. Then they scream death to America, death to America. There's no solution but an intifada revolution, which is an armed overthrow of the government and all of this craziness. And nobody's doing anything about them. Man, they have declared an open declaration of war against the people of the United States of America, and they need to be treated as the wartime combatants that they have declared themselves to be. This isn't me saying this. These are words that are coming out their mouth, because the second that you say death to America, you're saying death to me, my family, and my friends and countrymen and everybody. And you're disgracing my whole family who have been in this country, who have been in this country since before it was a country. Can we have that conversation? Okay, but people that are in power in the government, okay, continue to allow this to go on. And it makes you really wonder, what's the point? Why are they allowing this to go on? What is the end game? Why is this something that is okay to not only put on the news consistently, but to encourage? And we've got people that are in the what do you call it? In the Congress right now, and in the state houses of many parts of this country, okay, right now, like for us it would be the state assembly or the state senate. In the state houses right now that are cheering these people on. Yeah, this is perfectly fine. This is perfectly fine. No, it's not. They're saying death to me. They want me to die. They're saying death to my family. They want my friends and family to die. They're calling for the death of my family. And you're just letting that happen? There are laws that we have against that. Like just basic laws, right? Like that's a threat. Like that's jail. Like you go to jail for that. At least you get a ticket, okay? But you're threatening, what, 310 million people roughly? Okay? That's prison. That's prison. That's prison. That's underneath the dirt, really. So we got to really be sensitive to the fact that they're pushing all of this anti-American sentiment all around and nothing is being done. And the question has to be why. We see them interrupt all of these things, like they interrupted the Met Gala where all of the wealthiest and elitists go and dress like supervillains or people from the Hunger Games and stuff like that, just to flaunt their opulence and riches and wealth, to show you that you little plebeian, you little poor, you can never be as great as us. Look at how great we are. You could never be as stylish or afford a $50,000 dress. $50,000 for a dress? You're outside your mind. If I had $50,000 to freely spend, I'm not spending it on a dress. You outside your mind. Okay? So, but stuff like this, it's absolutely ridiculous. It's absolute. Well, also I'm a guy, but I wouldn't spend it on a suit. You get the idea. So, I mean, this is what we have to talk about. Really serious, important things that are actually going on. And as these crazy anti-American jihadists go and they harass these ultra wealthy people and the very elite, that scares them. That scares the elites. And they're being allowed to do this because the The people behind this at the real top of the pyramid want the elites to be scared because they know that if they can get them to be scared, they can implement more harsh restrictions on our liberties and freedoms, especially freedom of access to places and freedom of movement. And we need to wake up to this because it is aggressively serious and it is very much so becoming a vast problem. But can we talk about it though? Can we talk about it? Tisk, tisk, tisk. And now Bill Gates wants to black out the sun. He's putting up stuff in the sky to block out the sun actively. He's got some company, I forget the name of it off the top of my head, where he's been pitching for years to do it, and now they're doing tests on it. Yeah, because that's awesome. You know, it's crazy. I heard somewhere, and I thought that this was kind of funny. He said, you know, they use geoengineering over in the Middle East, like in Dubai and stuff, and they have big floods or whatever, like they just did in Dubai over there, and they'll say, oh yeah, we messed up with the cloud seeding and the geoengineering. And then they said, but in America, if it happens in America and they mess up with the geoengineering and stuff, they call that climate change. Listen, I laughed so hard. If I was a woman, I would have peed myself. I tell you what, it was too funny. Because it's funny because it's true. It's funny because it's true. You look at all these ridiculous weather patterns and stuff like that. No way. No way. No way. You can say, oh, it's climate change. Climate don't change like that. Climate does not change like that. Somebody is manipulating what's going on. Okay? So we see all of these crazy different earthquakes in places. Climate change make the earthquake? Come on, stop playing. Don't play in my face. We see all these different earthquakes and tsunamis, and we see all of these different things that are going on, these torrential downpours and stuff like that are going on, these ocean blobs, which is very weird, right? Like that's not even a thing. Ocean blobs, and by the ocean blobs I mean what would be considered death zones, right? Like where there's ultra hot water in specific areas. I wonder how the water is ultra hot in just certain areas, right? Because in theory, if the ice is melting into the ocean, it would cool the ocean like ice melts into a drink and cools the drink. No, don't talk about that. That might be something people have to think about and then try to rationalize to make sure that they tell you that it's not right. Okay, I got you. But you know what? Talking about the ocean and the stuff like that. Some years ago when I was little, you know, the jet stream and the Gulf Stream switched direction. They hadn't, in all of recorded history, switched direction. Okay? And they switched direction. Now, if you're not familiar with the jet stream, that's in the, I guess you say mid-atmospheric level. It's the thing that basically causes the winds, right? The wind current that goes across the Atlantic Ocean. And it switched directions. Completely switched directions. Like that's never happened in the history of the world. Then the Gulf Stream switched, which is the water moving. And nobody said anything about that either. It was like a footnote in a newspaper like years ago. Look it up. Like you can't make this stuff up. But people want to say, oh, climate change this, climate change that. Nobody talks about that at all. And if they did, they'd probably try to blame that on climate change too, even though there's no level of science that would actually rationalize that at all. It's crazy. It's crazy. And there's so much going on right now in our world and in our nation. It can be very burdensome and look very bleak. But I want to encourage you guys, keep the fight alive. And if you're not in this fight, you got to get active. Because it's only going to go further and further and further if more people don't stand up and speak up. That's why right now we've got to stand up and speak up and not shut up. We got to take action. Because if we don't, all will be lost. And like I said earlier, nobody is coming to save us. And on that note, all of you that are listening, I really hope that you have considered Jesus as your Lord and Savior. Okay? and giving your life to Christ. If not, I implore you, read the Bible, find a good church, okay? Get into it. I know some churches are trash. Sometimes it might take you a long time to find a good church, but read the Bible, okay? Read the Bible. A lot of the stuff that we see going on in the world has been predicted in the Bible already, because it's like they're following the Bible as a guide on how to destroy the world. It's like, what do you call it? What was that book? 1984? It's like you look at the book 1984, you read it, it's like they saw 1984 and they said, oh, instead of using this as a concern of how not to do stuff, let's use it as a workbook of how to get where we need to be, where we want to be. It's insane. It's insane. So we really, really, really have to come together and see what's going on. Because right now, with the stuff that's going on across the world, Ukraine, Israel, all of this stuff, Africa, China with Taiwan and the other Asian countries over there, it's really very serious. And I don't care how you feel about anything particularly, but I need you to remember one thing. Food security is the most important thing. And the second, well, I guess the first most important thing would be water security. And food security is the second most important thing. And if you look at those two things, those are what any good country needs to be able to be stable and productive. If we don't get those in hand, it's going to be very, very serious. And if you're listening to the show on the radio, I encourage you to let other people know about the show. Listen to Divide 2:30 to 4:30 every month. 2:30 to 4 every Monday. WRFZ 106.3 Rochester Free Radio, or you can find us on YouTube, on Rumble, on the Marcus C. Williams channel. You can find me on Facebook, Marcus C. Williams, or Marcus C. Williams for Rochester. You can find me on Twitter or Instagram at Marcus, the number 4, ROC. You'll find us. But wherever you are, like and share. Like and share. Now let's get back into it. So, boom. As we go down this path towards the election, faster and faster every day, I believe we're about 176 days out, maybe 175 now. We see more and more chaos and commotion and turmoil being set in our nation. These anti-American jihadists are one of the most loudest, serious issues that we have. The second most, right under them, is the illegal aliens. And both segments of the population are being used against the American people. The illegal aliens are being used to destroy our healthcare system and our social service system, definitely straining them to the point of collapse so that we don't have anything to provide for the people, because if we did, we actually might be able to improve the quality of life for people and make it so that they don't have to suffer so much and that they're not so far behind. And who would actually want that that's in power, right? Because they're supposed to serve us and they're supposed to care about us, but they care about themselves and their own riches and wealth. So we've got the illegals also being put into impoverished communities and black communities, and they're causing all types of chaos and havoc and stuff like that. So why are they there? To do exactly that. Strip resources, cause havoc. Many of them are joining gangs, or they are in a gang and they brought the gang with them. It's crazy what's going on right now. So they're actively taking territory largely in black neighborhoods, okay, and those that are impoverished. So that's something we need to be on the very large lookout for. But with that, that doesn't even include the illegal Chinese citizens, right? Because they're citizens of China, not citizens of the United States, okay? And all of them seem to be male of war age. We're letting people in from Hezbollah and Hamas and stuff like that, and then you got those crazy people where they're cultivating the students on these different campuses and stuff like that. I'm telling you guys, this is going to lead to a terrorist attack on U.S. soil, because we're allowing them to get more and more emboldened, and we're not squashing them like the toads that they are. They need to be squashed immediately with force, and if they rise again, they need to be snuffed out with force. Like, you guys are like, oh, well, it's not that big a deal, because you keep allowing them to grow more and more powerful. We see it with the criminal terrorists that we have on the streets where I live. Because of bill reform and raise the age, they get to do whatever they want. So now they've gone from just stealing cars to trying to run over children and actively running over children and robbing and stealing and raping and pillaging. And I say raping and I mean raping. Okay, I mean sexual assault, and I mean pillaging, and I mean mugging. And these are what these people are doing because they have been emboldened by the laws and the people that are in power allowing them to do that. And then people will tell you, oh, bail reform is fine, raise the age is fine. It's not doing any of the stuff that you're seeing happen every day. Really? How come these people aren't in jail then? How come many of them aren't in prison? Explain it to me like I'm 5. Where'd they come from? How did they get out and before they would have been held? Explain that to me. What's different? The only thing that's different is those laws. They added those laws. Man, listen here. Man, I'm a little hot because I'm feeling it, right? Like we got all of these things going on in the country. And these anti-American jihadists, many of them are American citizens. I'd say the majority of them are American citizens. You hate America so much, get out, bro. Get out. Okay? And we'd be good to take a C-17 or whatever the new model of the Hercules is currently, which is a giant transport ship, plane for the military, and just drop them all over there in Lebanon or in Israel. Let them deal with it. Let them deal with it. They want to protest so much. Let them put them in jail over there. I bet you they won't be so mad later on. Drop them off in Palestine and see what really happens. Man, please, one of these people go to war over there for those people over there, but they want to start war over here and overthrow our government. Are you serious? For foreign power, get out of town. Man, please. Most of these people are nothing but most of these anti-American jihadists are being used to cultivate terror cells. Because the more and more emboldened they are, you see them out there fighting against the police in the streets. You see them out there vandalizing property and destroying buildings. You see them out there actively taking over buildings and stuff like that. Those are all criminal acts. They're acts of treason and sedition when you're using them for a foreign interest and you're flying foreign flags saying that you've claimed territory for a foreign country. This is very, very serious. And I promise you, even Christopher Wray, the director of the FBI, I'm not too fond of him, okay? He testified before Congress like we are on the precipice of more terrorist attacks on our home soil. Then remember, you guys, we got all of these alphabet agencies, FBI, DEA, DAE, all of these things, and more that I don't even remember. The DIA, not to mention the CIA, right? But we can't talk about them at all. Even though this looks like a color revolution that the CIA is known for fermenting in other countries. But we're not going to talk about that. If you're listening, I love you guys. I love you, CIA. You guys are awesome. Please come back to actually representing the best interests of the country and not the elites. Or maybe that's just me dreaming and wanting you to do that than what you actually are doing. Maybe we need to restore the OSS or something because this is out of control what's going on right now. Maybe we just need to get back to American pride and being proud of our nation. But all of that's been pulled away from all of the colleges and stuff like that. It's very, very sad. It's very, very sad. Excuse me. It's because these teachers have been teaching the children wrong because they've been taught wrong and they've been radicalized. So now all the children are radicalized. It's a very, very, very serious issue, people. And we need to take it ever so seriously. And I encourage you to write your local elected officials, your town council, your city council, your county ledge, your state level people, and tell them that they should not be tolerating this and you want them to put these criminals in jail, these anti-American jihadists, okay, that are declaring war against our nation need to be all put in jail. If we don't stop it now, it's going to get really bad. And it's funny that all of this is happening, this and all of the illegals, and I'm also trying to get the illegals to vote now. All of this is happening right around the time of the elections. It's crazy, you guys. The next 175 days are going to be insane. I wholly expect something crazy, crazy to happen, and I'm not able to put my finger on it. I hope not, and I pray not. And I'm gonna go home and I'm gonna pray tonight not. Excuse me. But it's so crazy what's going on, and it has to stop. If we don't stop it now, it will only get worse, people. And we can stop it. But the only way we can stop it is if we as individuals start to unite together and start to stand up and say no more to our elected officials. And I know it's going to be difficult because who knows what's going to happen with the election. Lord bless, we actually have elections. Who knows what's going to happen to the candidates. Lord bless, we have the candidates actively alive and kicking. And the votes are pretty decently normal in a way of integrity goes. But we've seen over the last week, we've seen like 10, 15 people get arrested in relation to the 2020 elections and election fraud, or what do you say, election integrity, lack of election integrity. But can we talk about that? No, because according to all the people on the news and all the channels and all of that good, great stuff, it's not a problem. Everything's fantastic. There was nothing wrong with that election. Well, I mean, it's very clear that that was a lie, but we knew it was a lie. Now, can we actually stand up and have a conversation about that? I mean, like a real, actual conversation. A real one. No, they don't want to do that. Because that would be too much like right. And why would they want it to be too much like right? They don't want it to be right at all. They want it to be all the way far left. And I said that as a joke, but I'm also very, very serious on that point. We deserve better. We really, really, really do from our elected officials, but we have to go demand it. We have to go to them and we have to demand that they change their wicked ways, right? Like that's how it is. Like we need them to change their wicked ways. You guys, I don't know what to tell you, honestly, except we, the people, must stand for our nation. Because if we don't, if America falls, if we give in to the World Health Organization treaties that strip us of our freedoms, yeah, you guys go look that up, the World Health Organization treaties, or if we give in to the UN funding all of these illegal aliens and their transportation to the U.S., yes, the UN is down in the what would you call it, the triangle down there, okay, down in the triangle of where all the illegal aliens cross into the U.S. coming over here, and the UN is funding them, giving them bus rides, giving them food, giving them advice on that they should vote in this year's election and that they should vote for Democrats. Like it's outrageous, and this is the UN, and we fund the UN. If it was up to me, we would have ended the UN after the League of Nations. Okay, or we should restore the UN to exactly what it's supposed to be, a tool for the United States of America to flex our muscles worldwide. And that's not what it's become right now. It's evolved into a house of horrors that's run by the global elite. And the global elite doesn't care about you, me, or Pete. Okay, they don't care about nobody. They don't care about your mama. They don't care about your children. They don't care about nobody. So when we see the small things like they're doing that aren't even really small, like telling boys that they can be girls or girls that they can be boys, no, that's not okay. It's not okay. But they won't talk about how in the European Union over there, like England and the Netherlands and stuff like that, they've stopped cross-hormone procedures because they've seen that it gives very serious impacts that are largely irreversible to the youth with very little to no benefit. Okay, and we're not having that conversation, so we're not being serious, we're not being real, and it's not really like anybody cares about us except us. So it's got to be us that steps up. We've got to step up. You've got to step up. If you're in my area and you're ready to step up, reach out to me. I'm in Rochester, New York, Monroe County. If you're in this area, reach out to me. if you're ready to stand up and start sitting on your buns. And that's what I got, because somebody's got to encourage you. And I hope that I'm encouraging you. Even though I'm laying out all of these things that are going way crazy in our nation right now, somebody's got to tell you what's going on, because if we don't talk about it, then nobody will ever know, and nobody will ever say anything. And this is very, very, very serious. It's so serious that we need to do more as far as getting active. Have you gotten active yet? I hope you have. If you've been listening to this show for some time, I definitely always encourage you to get active, because it's going to be up to us to make a difference. We have to be the change that we want to see. Why am I running for office? Because I want to be the change that I want to see. It's very simple. I'm running because I don't feel represented, and I know many of you don't feel represented. I'm running because I know that me nor anybody else in my area matter to our elected officials, city council or the state assembly. And this is serious. Somebody's got to. So if not them, I guess then it falls on my shoulders, because if nobody stands up, it's us, up to us. We got to stand up. And if you guys don't have a candidate in your area that you can help, or if you actually want to run, maybe you should run. If you've been thinking about it, maybe you should run. Maybe you should find out what it entails to run and then go do it. But we got to straighten out our nation, or every single thing is going to be lost. And we're not able to afford that, not even at all. Okay? So as we get here near the hour mark, I want to remind you, like, share, and subscribe. Okay? Like, share, and subscribe wherever you're following us or watching us on. But here's my message as we get to closing. I know that everybody out there isn't Christian. I know you're not. But if you are, pray. But you got to pray and you got to take action. And if you're not, I pray that you find Jesus and accept him as your Lord and Savior, so that he can point you more directly to our Father, the Lord in heaven above. People, we have to get back to our Christian morals in this society. If we do not, it will continue to deteriorate, and we will not have a leg to stand on, or as the old people say, a pot to piss in and a window to throw it out. We have to 1000% stand up against this grave, grievous evil that is starting to permeate every level of government, every part of the government bureaucracy, every part of everything in our nation. We have to stand up. We have to speak up. Go to a local official meeting. That's your job. And this time next week, when next Monday comes, I hope you have found out when your next meeting is for whatever you've decided that you're going to go see, whether it's the school board, fire district, city or town council, county ledge, or one of the state assembly things, or whatever the case is, depending on where you live. I hope you found something. I really do. Because we're going to have to find our tribe and find our people that are out there, that are willing to stand up and speak up. It's really, the time is now. There is no time in the future to do any of this. It's not. So now is the time. And with that, here's what I'm going to tell you. As we close, be empowered. Be empowered that you can make a difference. Be empowered that your vote does matter. I know you may think that there is a lot of corruption in the election integrity system and stuff like that, but if you don't vote, it's easier for them to cheat. So get out and vote. Vote, 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 vote. If you got a primary coming up, vote in that. In general election in November 5th, make sure you get out and you vote in that. If you can vote early, go vote early, okay? Do that. It's important that every single person that's listening to this, all of your friends, all of your family, everybody this year gets out and votes. Do you know that right now in Ukraine, we're working, well, our CIA is working with many of their hackers and stuff to push different, I guess you would say, to push different certain specific specified views on the Ukrainian people through their media. because Ukraine shut down all of the independent media. They only have government-run media. So much for a free nation, right? So they're doing that over there, but there also have been reports of the same Ukrainian hacker type people actually working on campaigns for the U.S. presidential election as well as the Senate election, which is interesting because that's the same thing that Trump accused them of back in 2020. And that's what people were accusing them of in 2020. And people are like, oh no, that's not possible. That's not happening. But we know that traditionally Ukraine has been one of the most corrupt nations since its inception in, I want to say, the early 90s. So it's really, really serious. And we need to pay attention to what's going on. But in order to combat the corruption, we as the people need to start standing up. We need to stand up to our government, to the service providers and the laws and legislation that they're putting in. The most scariest piece of legislation that they just put in, and they love to do this, they love to put in nice, prettified names. And they called this bill, it's in the Senate right now, it's called the Anti-Semitism Bill. It's called Stop Anti-Semitism or Jewish Hate or something like that, right? And who's not for that, right? Like everybody's for that. But it's a trick. It's a nice name on a bill when the bill doesn't even do that. What the bill really does is it strips us of our First Amendment rights and makes it so you can't even talk about the New Testament in the Bible with Jesus, okay, to anybody, because then that can be considered a hate crime. It's very, very serious and extremely alarming, and everybody should care, and this should be on every single airwaves, and everybody should be talking about it. But it's not. Nobody's talking about it. It's very important. It's like almost like nobody cares, but many people don't even know. And the fact that you don't know what you don't know is part of the problem, and that's why they try to keep people from speaking online and on the news and stuff like that, because then you might be able to start thinking for yourself and perish the thought of you thinking for yourself. They definitely don't want you to think for yourself. Now, here's the deal. This year, everybody's going to need to vote. This year, crazy stuff is probably going to happen. But we still need to get active with good candidates. We still need to help out and pitch in wherever we are to do whatever we can to help right the direction of our nation. Rechart the course of this country. Because I'm telling you right now, we're about to crash land into a beach, and it's not going to be good, and we would be like being stranded on Gilligan's Island, except not as nice. It is really, really serious. But we can make a difference. We are the last remnant. We are the last of us that are here right now for a time such as this to stand up, to speak up, to take action. We have to. If not us, then when? And then who, right? I know I just messed up that saying, right? It's if not us, then who? If not now, then when? But the fact of the matter is, if we don't do this now and get active now, we'll lose what we have left of our nation. We see it crumbling apart everywhere at the seams. We see what China is doing to poison our food supply and to change everything with our electric grid and everything like that, and to attack our electric grid and all of these other systems and infrastructures and the internet lines and stuff like that. We see all of this. But we must stand in our nation against what our government is doing to our people so that we can improve our own country, because we have nowhere to go. Mexico's deported, I think they said 70,000 Americans, and they've got 250 to deport now, 250,000 to deport. Mexico doesn't want us. Canada been told us they don't want us. So where are we going to go? We've got nowhere to go. And that's why this is the time to stand up, speak up, and don't shut up. Take action. I'll catch you guys later. Thank you for listening to The Divide on WRFZ 106.3 Rochester Free Radio. Catch us every Monday, 2:30 to 4 p.m. right here on the radio, or catch us on Rumble, YouTube. You'll find us on the Marcus C. Williams channel. Check us out. Look into me. I'm online. And if you want to help out with my campaign or pitch in or donate, go to marcus4rochester.com. I'll catch you guys later. Be blessed and be well. Remember, stand up, speak up, don't shut up, take action. You guys have a good week. I'll catch you later. They can probably try to see. I don't know if it would work, but it's worth a try, period. I'll catch you guys later. You be blessed, be well. Stand up, speak up, and don't shut up. Take action.